You are now my darling.
Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Darling in the Franxx Part 1 from Manga Entertainment. This anime, I've got to admit, dear God, let's say that, but we'll talk more about this. So I also want to say thank you to the second Adam that I worked with, because when I told him that I was watching this to begin with and possibly reviewing it, he told me don't watch past a certain episode, which was literally when everyone goes to the beach. Like, as soon as that episode finishes, don't watch anything else after that. So thank you, Adam, for telling me not to watch it because it's that bad. I disagree with you on some things, but if you like the sort of content and you want to see more, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as that cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. Let's just jump straight into it. And yeah, I've got to admit, I kind of really enjoyed this anime a lot because it felt a tiny bit different. But now looking back over it, there are tons of tropes of other things that's happened. So I have to admit that I kind of do get some vibes from other animes, such as like Evangelion and stuff like that. So there is kind of a lot of things like that, but I really did like this anime. I thought that the characters were interesting. I thought that they put in quite a lot of fan service to kind of get people into this. And then kind of it delves straight into those animes where they say the same thing over and over and over again, and you get kind of bored of it. When I first saw this anime, Zero Two was the one character that made me want to watch it because, you know, she was a fun, unique character. She was slightly different. You know, she had this fun side, this cheeky side to her. But it then kind of dissipates much later on, like in the second part of this anime. But for the first parts of it, it was fine. You have the sort of tropes that you always have. Like, Hiro seemed to be kind of like the depressing character a little bit. Like, oh, I don't think I can do this anymore. Oh, huff. And then you're like, why? But I think the majority of it is, rather than having background characters all the time, you had quite a few characters that really kind of jumped out, that kind of like helped support it and kind of made it slightly different. And that's what I generally really loved about this. If you've never seen Darling in the Franxx, it kind of like follows off about a group of kids stroke teenagers which are called parasites, and they drive these giant mech type things called Franxx, which is basically, it's just robots with faces on. That's pretty much it. But they have to go against Galactosaurs, which are at the very beginning what you think are the enemies of this. And obviously, like, there's only a few people that can do this. You find out much later on in the second part of this anime. But for the first part, you're kind of in the dark of what's going on, and it slowly builds up to knowing more about the kids, as well as knowing more about the surrounding worlds of it. Now, they have a thing called Papa, which is basically like this. I thought it was the old guy who is the doctor, who is basically, he knows more about Franxx and stuff. I thought he was Papa for a while, but it's mainly about these group of individuals that are kind of higher up. So you have like the kids and the teenagers, then you have the kind of adults, and then you have Papa at the very top, and he tells them what to do, blah, blah, blah. He gives them the orders. So when the teenagers are in the Franxx, it's very similar to, say, Pacific Rim, as well as kind of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, where they have to work together. If they don't work together, then that is it. Like, one part will fail, even if like they're both working together, and one just stops piloting, or one gets distraught or whatever, then it all shuts down and they freeze, which is a kind of a good thing and a bad thing, because I can see, like, if one went off on a rampage, you can go, right, I am stopping. But if like one just like their mind wanders and it shuts down in part of a big battle, then that's it. You're pretty much done. You're pretty much done. So it also kind of works on compatibility. So if one of the characters decides to jump into the Franxx with someone else, it may not work, and they have to kind of agree to swap over. And you do see this much later on, which I kind of liked, and it kind of works a tiny bit better. Now, one of my main favorite characters in this anime is Zero Two. And she has this unique ability where if she rides with certain people, they die. That is pretty much it. They die. And that, you kind of think, what? okay. You see it at the very beginning. One person rides with her, then like Hero jumps in and they kind of like power up to Stolitzia. They get this new mode, and you just see this guy just dying, and I can't remember if you don't see him ever again. If that's it, he's just like, oh, he's gone. But maybe they save him and he goes off. I don't know. It's an anime. It's an anime. But yeah, it's a very interesting kind of trope, because you also have the fact that Hero can pilot, but then he gets infected and as it looks like he's going to die, and you're kind of like, okay, what? All right, fine. So that is a kind of major thing, and then later on it's like, oh, he's accepted something and he's absolutely a-okay to carry on. And you just kind of think this may be a thing all the way through that they don't find out, but it's very early on in the anime, and it's more of kind of like, it doesn't give you enough time to kind of go like, oh, don't die, Hero, don't die. You're like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. At the very beginning of this anime, as I've mentioned, is they throw in the fan service, what people like. And obviously, 02 is pretty much naked, half naked, whatever. Now, one good thing is at the very beginning, you get told on who the characters are going to be, who they're going to kind of fall in love with. And 02 and Hero are pretty much at the very beginning thrown in together. He realizes he loves her for the first time, and then that's it. You know, he doesn't really want to leave her, but he's still kind of new to this whole kind of feeling malarkey, as well as kind of like doing what 02 kind of wants all the time. So there is that kind of mark, which is fine. But to me, I'm kind of more like, I saw it the second he's like, oh my god, it's like, oh look, it's what it is. I don't really need to read the synopsis of this anime. I just need to know about how the story is. How is the story? Now, I did kind of think this was going to be some sort of like Romeo Juliet sort of situation where 02 and Hero are kind of kept apart for a while, and it does kind of work that way, because they're all like, oh, I don't really want to know this. I really don't want to see like what's going on. Like, how do I say it? It's more like they try and keep them apart because 02 is this almighty powerful being that, you know, has to pilot. But rather than kill off multiple people, if you know that they're working well with Hero, you'd kind of want to kind of push them together to go out and do more missions. But one thing that really does kind of annoy me is just the way that everyone just tells them not to do stuff. It's like, you do what we say, go out and do whatever. But I generally kind of thought, well, hang on a minute, why can't we send them on missions rather than try and keep them apart? They work well together. Just do that. See, just do that. Oh dear God, that's really cool. But yeah, in all fairness, it just gets a bit kind of boring straight away. And I'm more kind of like, let them work together. I want to see them work together. I don't want to see it, we can't send you on a mission because this has happened. It's like, oh, for God's sakes. Just for God's sakes. It does kind of make me feel like this entire anime is like a conspiracy theory to some degree, where you kind of start wondering what's going on. Like they want to like go down one direction, like, hey, let's make this thing where, is it all the grown-ups? Is it something different? You know, is there something weird? Because you see loads of like references to like past pilots, past parasites and stuff, and you see in like when they flash back to the garden, it's always about, hey, look at this, like look at like the fact that these people just disappear after a while and it's a whole new batch. So it feels like it's going to go down a conspiracy theory route, but you find out it doesn't, and it kind of leads like this anime tries to be so many different things in my eyes, where I like it, but then I get kind of bored. Now, even though this anime has a very steady pace, it does get kind of boring most of the way through, and even though that's not a bad thing, it just feels like they wanted to kind of flush it out. I generally thought this was a 12 episode anime, didn't realize it was a 24 episode anime, so obviously they had to kind of flush things out. But I really wanted to go back to other places, so like when I mentioned about the conspiracy theory, there's one or two episodes where it shows you the past Earth, and you kind of think, oh, how did it get here? Is it the fact that, you know, pollution, is it whatever? You find out again in the next part. But to me, it felt like there are scenes where you could know more. Like, you could have flushed those episodes out. Like, what happened to the human race? You find out again much later on. But at the very beginning, like, you find old towns, old cities that are overgrown, that are absolutely deserted. And that's what I wanted to watch more. I wanted to know more about that than anything. So you have Kokoro, who finds a book on childbirth, and no one knows what childbirth is, having a baby, anything like that. And then obviously they don't know what love is, and there's so much in this entire city that they find that you could have had at least one more episode of them finding something to kind of make them go, oh, maybe Papa isn't the best. Maybe the adults are tricking us. And that leads into a whole conspiracy thing, because that would look absolutely awesome, but it doesn't. And I'm just like, oh God, show us this side. This is what I want to see. There's another part of this where Zomani, I think, or I'm going to call him Zo, where he gets separated from the rest of the group. And this is when they're doing like a reward type thing. And it generally kind of annoys me, because you find out that the adults they don't have like sex, or they don't have anything. They know what the kids are, but it feels like there's a lot more going on. And this could have led into such a big, massive conspiracy where they're like, why don't the grown-ups know about this? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And I love that sort of element, but it's kind of very much left out. And I feel like that again could have been a whole new episode where they could have gone back to the city, then gone back to this woman, asked her about everything, and then you start building up stuff. But from most of it, it's just like, oh, here, we find Zo and that's it. And then he asks a few questions, and pretty much that's all you kind of get. And that kind of really does annoy me. I love the fact that he finds another adult, he starts talking, and there are things where she's like, oh, I'm going to tell you this. Oh, no, I shouldn't. And you're like, no, tell me. I need to know. Now, the main kind of focus on this is the fact that the parasites, the teenagers, they all work as a team, and they have this they start liking certain people, and that's fine. That I expect that to happen if you're working in such a close team. But the way that the characters build up, the way that the characters interact with each other is a whole new level. And I really kind of like that, because it felt like it just wasn't like Hero 02. That was the main character base, that there was nothing else after that. Like, I loved the fact that they grew relationships with each other, bonds with each other, and the fact is that they pretty much did everything together. And that to me is, I think, was one of the best things in this anime, because I didn't feel like no one got lesser time than the other. The only two people that got more time probably was Hero and 02. But that was about it. And I generally like the core dynamics with the entire team. We see a lot of battles. That's fine. I liked the fighting. But one thing is that you see the savage mode, and you see it like twice with Celestia and also with Kokomo's one and her pilot. And you kind of think that's cool. Like, it goes into this savage mode where they can't control it, and I wanted to see that more. And now kind of watching other videos about this is definitely, it's an Evangelion trait, but this was a really cool thing where you see it with Starlitzia more, but I really wanted to see all the others go into this mode where they go and attack, they go for it, and that's what made this slightly better. But you don't see it, and I'm just like, oh, why? Just why? One thing that really did kind of irritate me is the fact that there's a lot of like the I loves yous most of the time, and it's always Hero and 02 always saying it, like, I love you, my darling, I love you, the darling 02, darling. It irritated me after a while. It's like, I can understand that you have feelings for each other, but do you have to say it pretty much all the time? It felt like they wanted a romance thing, and then it didn't deliver, and it wound me up so many times after just hearing it. Like, all the other characters, they didn't say it. We knew it. They could say it once and be like, oh, I really like you, cool, I love you, and that's it. But it felt like you had to, it was forced many times to say, hey, these two characters are the main characters and they love each other, so you have to know 24/7 about this. 24/7. And it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I know that they love each other and they'll do anything for each other, but do we need to be reminded every couple of minutes and stuff like that? It's not actually a couple of minutes, but it felt like it. So this anime kind of brings in other things, like the characters are interesting, there are things happening in the background, it keeps you wanting to know more, and that's fine. I absolutely adored this sort of part where I wanted to see more about it. but there were parts where I just got absolutely bored of. Like 02 gets really like she falls for Hero, she loves him, but then acts really cold out of nowhere. And it's like, here, it's not Hero's fault. Hero's like, I want to help you, tell me everything. And she's just like, I don't care. It feels like a massive 180. Like, you see it sometimes when she starts asking questions, but then she just literally becomes cold with him, doesn't care, like kicks him out. Even when he's like, oh, can I be your friend? Can I do this? Can I be with you? And she just acts really cold for no reason. Like, one thing else I want to see is the house that they live in. There are multiple rooms, and they find other like teenagers that have lived there, and there's so much stuff, but yet they don't explore it, they don't look into it. They look in one room and that's pretty much it. And I wanted to see more. Like, they could have had another episode where they look at like the past teams and how that worked. That would have been absolutely interesting compared to the abomination of the end that we've got in this anime. But they had too much stuff that they could have shown. Like, oh, I just so wanted to see it all the time. But I'm going to kind of wrap this up because this video is getting way too long now. What made this interesting is that the team works together. You see some conspiracy theories, some theories that you want to know at the very end, and you kind of want to say, hey, what's going on with it? I feel like this anime could have been a multi-season one. It didn't have to end at season 1. If they're making a second one, cool, whatever. But I feel like this could have happened over time, and that you could have seen a lot more to it. There's a lot of teasing. I really liked the part where 02 teams up with the girls, where they're having this kind of battle where like 02 steals clothes, and like the girls and boys have to kind of like, I think it's more of a, how do I say, where, something's gone on, they won their own space. I absolutely really loved it. I thought that episode was really funny, and I wanted to see more episodes like this before it went into this whole sort of kind of like run-of-the-mill type place. You meet new characters along the way at the very end at the garden where they were kind of talking about. This was okay, but they seemed very arrogant for what it was. This is a great anime, don't get me wrong. I just feel like there is a lot that lets it down and boosts it up, especially like the pace and direction, the character changes, 02's attitude. Like, it feels like there aren't any fun episodes, but there are episodes like The Beach is a great one, the one where 02 goes off and fights the boys, for that sort of thing, where they split the house into with big tape. Really like that sort of stuff. But for the rest of this, I just wasn't, I loved it, but then I could hate it at the same time. But would I recommend this? Yeah, the first part is absolutely great. It is an anime that I could generally watch over time and revisit, but knowing what comes up, I'm all right. But yeah, I'm gonna leave there. What are your thoughts on Darling in the Franxx? Have you seen this? What do you think? Are you gonna buy this? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you like this sort of content and you want to see more, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as that cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.